Hi, everyone. It's Joe Veneri, the host of Fit Insider, the show where I talk with the entrepreneurs, executives, and investors who are redefining the business of fitness and wellness. Hi, everyone. It's Joe Veneri, the host of Fit Insider. Today, I'm joined by Jim Crowell. Jim is the CEO of OPEX. On today's episode, we talked about Jim's experience as a gym owner, his journey to becoming the CEO of a fast-growing fitness company, and his thoughts on the future of the fitness industry. I had a great time chatting with Jim, and I hope you enjoy listening. Let's get into it. Jim, thanks for joining us today. We're super excited to chat.
Joe, thanks for having me, man. It's always good chatting with you and your brother. I appreciate what you guys are doing in fitness just generally, man. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, likewise. And I think just a little bit of context, it's probably been, 8 or 10 years now that we've known each other from various fitness business ventures. And it's cool to circle back and kind of see where you've landed and hear a little about what's next.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact genesis moment of it, but I remember coming up to your guys' place up in the North Hills of Pittsburgh, and you were in, the airport ice arena, and you had 1 million square feet.
Right.
And, you were doing just these big classes and crushing it. And, I was with my business partner, Josh, back then, and, we were building things down in the South Hills, and then we worked together on kettlebell, and then you guys kind of went more digital route. We went the Jim's route, and then, kind of the rest is history. But we always had great conversations for the last, I think you're right, 8-10 years.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about even now, like when we did meet up and think about how you guys came from teaching group fitness classes and personal training and doing things just kind of, a lot like we did, just hustling to make it happen. And then eventually getting up to multiple locations and now everything you have going on at OPEX, it's super exciting to see and really kind of grateful for the relationship all these years.
Yeah, I think you guys are similar where, you came from teaching, Anthony came from the military, I came from a hedge fund, my business partner came from legal background. And so fitness is kind of this, frankly, hodgepodge of people who get into it for extremely different reasons and seem to just kind of make their way based on where they want to end up. And I think that it was pretty clear that you guys wanted to build something big. I wanted to build something big. Those two visions are slightly different, but same in that we want to impact fitness in a positive and transparent way. And so I think that, you guys doing it on the digital end and, I guess I'm doing it technically on the digital end, but more in the coaching education, coaching of athletes, fitness gyms side of things. It just shows you that this industry is so much bigger than maybe people understand, which I find fascinating. I know you guys do too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a lot of what we're trying to accomplish, both with the podcast and Fit Insiders, just these diverse perspectives on, one, how do you break into the industry? How do you find your way? How do you have an impact? And also now looking at, I feel like at a time like never before, the eyeballs and the headlines that fitness and wellness have on it, the opportunities have never been kind of bigger or more accessible. So, having people of diverse backgrounds and interests is super appealing to me.
Oh, yeah. I think it's super easy to get into fitness, if you want my honest opinion. Anybody can do it because there's high-end PT jobs, there's low-end PT jobs, there's group class, there's boot camp, there's remote coaching now, there's Peloton, there's all these different ways that you can get into fitness in some capacity. I think the biggest thing to your point is the awareness around people wanting to be healthy, and let's just call it what it is, right? People who have the means, right, who want to be healthy is exploding because they want to live not just longer, but better. And so I think this revolution of wellness is much bigger than maybe some people think, because that's bleeding into even things like food, where you're seeing this massive emergence of things like Beyond Meat, and people have their opinions on that, but you can't deny how fast this thing is growing. So it's not just gyms, it's not just online programs, it's food, it's drinks, it's bars, it's hotels that are doubling as workout rooms. It's, Industrious and WeWork turning their places into gyms. It's Equinox turning their hotel gyms. It's crazy. Everything's turning into this 24/7, 365. I want to be and live well. And so I want my fitness to be essentially on demand 24/7. And I think it's just going to keep getting bigger.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to kind of put a pin in that for a second, because that's definitely where I want the conversation to go, is talking about, the implications and fitness and wellness more broadly. But just to kind of give folks a little bit of context about you and kind of how you've gotten to the place where you are in the fitness industry in your career. We mentioned you at one point owning multiple CrossFit gyms, and now getting out and doing the work that you're doing with OPEX. Did you kind of have this trajectory in mind when you got started, and how did you get from, that initial personal training, group fitness kind of like on ramp to owning those multiple gyms and now kind of being a leader in the fitness industry?
I'll try to do this pretty quick, but this thing starts way, way, way back for me. I loved coaching and training from a really young age, and started coaching, whether it be baseball, soccer, or tennis. Gosh, maybe I was 14 or 15 years old. So I always had that side of me, and I loved doing it. I played tennis at Penn State, so I was a pretty decent athlete. And I also loved the business end of things. So I was constantly merging this love of fitness and business, or sport and business. So I got out of college and went to work for a hedge fund, of all things, and loved aspects of it, but missed that active sport lifestyle. So after 5 years being at the hedge fund, it was successful, but I just had this huge desire to be aggressively active again. So I found this thing, CrossFit. I loved the concept of it, and I loved the capitalism of it, to be frank, where 48 hours I could open up a gym and then do whatever I felt like. And so for me, that sounded awesome, because I could build whatever I felt like. And so moved back up to Pittsburgh. I was in Austin at that time. Built out the gyms, had really good success there, and just continued to love building the business of fitness idea. So I can't say that I only loved coaching, but I did. I loved building the concept of making coaching bigger. And so kind of during that 4 or 5 year run in Pittsburgh with the gyms, I got hooked up with Optimum Performance Training, which was OPT. And they kind of introduced me to this really intricate but structured way of viewing human health and fitness. I had never seen somebody put it together as thoroughly but simply as the owner, James Fitzgerald, did. And so when I sold the gyms, they recruited me into OPT. And then, gosh, something like 3 days after I started at OPT, we rebranded to OPEX.
Right.
And I was coaching at that time, but 5 minutes into this, me working for OPEX, I recognized that I needed to be on the business side. And so I stopped coaching and just started helping them build out the business, and have ultimately moved my way into a CEO role. And what OPEX has emerged into is a small little conglomerate of companies, which is, we do OPEX coaching education. That's a big business for us. We have OPEX gyms all around the world now. We have Big Dawgs Coaching, which are fitness athletes. We remotely coach, 500+ clients doing that. And, we've got some cool investments in, Brandex, which is kids coaching education. And we've got a small investment in True Coach, which is a technology platform for coaches to program. So it's been a really fun journey of kind of just learning this industry. And I can't say at all that I knew all the ins and outs when I got in. I just wanted to be in. And I think maybe something that we share greatly, Joe, is that we love to be curious about things and fitness in this context. And so I never stopped trying to understand it. I never stopped trying to understand the marketing and sales and operations and psychology and what makes this industry tick. And so I think that that's just allowed me to have some pretty interesting insights into the industry that a lot of people seem to value. So I've really enjoyed the run so far, and I don't intend to go anywhere.
Yeah, it's incredible hearing that and thinking about, like you mentioned, some of the similarities and what matters as you're figuring out your career trajectory and asking questions and trying new things and not being afraid to pursue things that you're curious about. Because I've found through my experience that, looking at things the way that other people are doing them and just kind of thinking, why are they doing it like that? What if you did this? What if we took this part and remixed it with that? And being curious, but also connecting the dots between things that seem dissimilar or maybe seem disjointed, and being able to plug those different pieces in have definitely been the things that have helped me kind of make sense of, when we hit different sticking points or plateaus or whatever, but to be able to power through. So I think being curious and making those connections is super important.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to kind of hit on some of my core principles, I guess it would be you have to have a passion about the concept that you're exploring. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not loving 24 hours a day of the work that you do. That's crazy to think that could happen. But if you love what you're pursuing as a concept, I think that there's a ton of power and inspiration there. Another thing is that I think you just have to work your ass off to get there. I think that in the fitness industry, you see it. I mean, and I see it. People just think that it's cherry picking, and that's just not the case, man. You got to grind to succeed in this industry. It's not set up for low-level trainers to win. I mean, low-level trainers get churned out. That's how this industry works.
Especially now. It's so easy to get commoditized right out, and you can easily be replaced.
For sure. I mean, you got kids coming out of college every year that'll happily take $0 an hour for their services.
Right.
So I think that you have to know that you need to work hard. And then you really have to be open-minded to how fast this industry is changing. For example, a lot of people ask me the question, because we do individual coaching, right? A coach is with a client, whether it be remotely, in person, whatever. That's just our ethos at OPEX and Big Dawgs. And people ask me all the time, well, what happens when machine learning or AI spits the program out? And I say, awesome, that's going to help my coaches coach faster. And so people are thinking, it's like, oh, well, won't that disrupt your industry? It's like, sure, it's going to disrupt people who don't utilize the technology. So people need to realize that all this technology that they're wondering, it's all coming, all of it. And all of these platforms and tech stacks for either marketing or fulfillment or operations or whatever, they're all coming. So if you don't utilize it, you're going to be behind the curve, and the franchises and other businesses that utilize them are going to eat you up. And so I think if you kind of utilize those three things, you'll have a great shot at succeeding.
And that's kind of what I was most interested in when you were digging into, what all of the things that are encapsulated with the businesses that OPEX is involved in. The words that came up the most were coaching and technology, and coaching and technology. And so pulling the curtain back on that, and you're thinking about, as the industry evolves and this technology we know is coming, how are you talking to your coaches and the different folks who are getting involved with OPEX about these are the steps that we're taking to be prepared? This is how we're utilizing it, and what impact you think that'll have?
It's a really good question, and I have to partially hedge my answer to say that I kind of try to reevaluate this every 3 or 6 months, just because things move so fast. So I might say this today and then 3 months later have a slightly different take. But where I see there being value is people understanding how to live better and longer. And I don't think that value is ever going to go away. So if I can create a service that helps you live longer and better, I have tremendous value in your life. And so I want to figure out how we can do that in the most, let's call it, professional and ethical way possible. There's a bunch of nonsense out there that's calling itself personalized that we know isn't. And I can't get on board with that stuff. I am happy to get on board with massive scale, right? I'm cool with that. But don't tell me it's personalized when it's not. And so I think that, if you're really looking at where the industry is going, it's going to place the consumer in a confusing place of large companies saying that their answer is the best, but actually what they're doing is out marketing better solutions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that the things that you said and the way that you talk about fitness and technology and all the things that are coming is so interesting, because I hear the business acumen coming through, and just that approach and the way that you think about it, talking about how do we deliver value? Where can I serve the consumer? What does this look like from a personalization standpoint? And it's not so many of the things that you, from the outside looking in, look at the fitness industry and think it's, six pack abs or these types of workouts or, at home technology. The first thing you said was, where can I add value based on what this technology is enabling me to do? So it's refreshing to hear just like that take and coming to it with that type of empathy for the, consumer or exerciser.
Yeah. And I think that that's all you have at the end of the day. I think we're going to see, well, let me say it this way. I don't think we're ever going to see six pack abs go out of style.
Right.
Because it's something that most people can't have, or at least they can't have in a healthy way. And while six pack abs, I know this is going to come to a shock to people not in the fitness industry, six pack abs are generally a bad thing for people. However, they look pretty darn good because the market has hyped them up. So, and by the way, I'm not saying that people should be massively out of shape, but those are going to be interesting, and marketers are going to take advantage of that at the expense of the consumer. And don't get me wrong, if you can get six pack abs in a healthy way, I'm all for it. Lots of our clients have six packs and it's cool, but it might take them a year or a year and a half of consistent effort, eating the right foods, going to sleep on time to do it in a healthy way. And some of the things that we're seeing, Joe, that are scary, and this is more in the intense fitness space, so I don't want to just blanket the entire fitness industry, but intense fitness, we're seeing a lot of people who have done it for years blowing out their hormones. And when you blow out your hormones like that, it takes a long time to recover. And a lot of people are kind of just wired and tired right now. They think they're doing all this great training for them. And in reality, they're just burning themselves to the ground. And so I fear the concept of all of these hacks and I can do it faster and 10 minutes to six pack abs. It's not realistic. However, it sells. And I think, you and I can sit here and know that we're always going to have the trade-off of I can be professional and tell people the right message. It's going to take me longer, though, than if I just sold them six pack abs.
Yeah, definitely.
It just is the way that it is, and that's okay.
Right. And I think, so taking that and all the things that your approach and what you're talking about, how is that captured in basically what OPEX is today and what you're trying to do with that going forward as a CEO and leading the business forward?
So if we talk about coaching education, because that is truly what OPEX is. We educate coaches. That's our core ethos. So OPEX gyms are a way of giving a coach a home forever that has a great business model. Is it the fastest scaling? Absolutely not. Does it have longevity? Yes, if you work hard at it. You know what I mean? But we're not trying to sell a concept that says you're going to go from 0 to 5,000 clients overnight. That is not remotely what we've got. We educate coaches how to do it. And if I come from a coaching education standpoint, what we're trying to do is to give a coach the right education to create this value proposition for clients. So OPEX, we want them to understand very holistically and comprehensively how to serve a client. So for us, essentially, we've got this program called CCP. It's the coach, the client, and the professional. And essentially, they go through the coaching portion of it to understand about themselves first. And then they start to understand all of the principles and immutable truths that are in fitness. So they have to understand that first. Only then do they get into the how they serve the client. And we've got an entire methodology of how you can serve a client in a unique one-to-one way. So a lot of people latch on to OPEX when I say that OPEX is essentially cost-effective small group personal training. I say that because I put my marketing hat on because they know personal training, but we deliver a different version of personal training, which is that we want the clients to have autonomy. So we deliver the program and a monthly consultation and nutrition advice, et cetera, et cetera. And then they work out in a gym with other people because you don't need me with you for 60 minutes.
Right.
There's just no reason why that is needed other than people who have very, very, very specific movement related needs or people that just don't want to give up the coach. but you don't actually need that if you want to continue to improve for a long time. And then when you get to the professional portion of it, that's actually what I teach in that course. We want these coaches to have an air of professionalism in every aspect of the business. So if you take that whole course concept and kind of wrap it up with a bow, when somebody finishes, they should have a very, very clear understanding of how they can build a coaching business to work with people in a personalized way. And that, we think, allows them to go out and build the type of business that they want, which would have superior impact than, if we only teach them how to move their ankle joint. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that we want people to be able to work with the client in a myriad of different environments.
And when you're talking about that, all the different things that are involved, it sounds like there's also the kind of business component where you want people to walk away and understand that, how do they run the business side of things? Like you said at the onset, the capitalism, portion of fitness certainly attracted you. It attracted me as well. And that's important. I feel like, potentially a lot of other programs give you the anatomy, they give you the training methodology, and then they let you kind of go figure it out on your own. Would you say that's like a point of differentiation for OPEX and what you guys are trying to do?
For sure. And no doubt about it, there's so much more fitness business, whether it be consultants or, business courses out there today than there were even 5 years ago. But there's a reason for that. Is these coaches, I'll put 90% of them, they really mean well. They want to help other people. They just don't know how to do it and stay a coach.
Right.
So they might be a coach for a couple of years and then they're out because they don't make enough money or because they can't retain their clients. It's not because they don't care. It's because they don't know what to do or they haven't been told how to implement a system. So basically we want to teach the coach how to build their own franchise system. And that's worked really effectively for us for, I've been here, it's been 5 years now. And that's worked really effectively for us. And I think that we're just kind of scratching the surface on how effectively we can impact an entire market of coaches out there. If I look at the OPEX side of things, basically we're just saying we don't actually coach the end consumer directly. Our coaches do and our gyms do. But we coach the coach at the end of the day. And so I want to build a business and a structure that allows us to do that really effectively so that those coaches can go coach people all over the world and we can scale that way.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible, point of differentiation and something that the industry needs, frankly. When you look at different methodologies or, there's opportunities to get in on whether it's the franchise side or like you said, the coaches who are doing it almost like a lifestyle business or whether you're a personal trainer or group fitness instructor, one of the most difficult things is how do I make money from this? How do I keep doing this? So when you look at that and speaking about the business component of it for you as the CEO of OPEX, what does success look like over the next, call it 3 years? And what does that trajectory look like for things that you're trying to accomplish?
So I'm always a growth guy and I always want to make sure that we're growing. And, I know this is more of a business savvy audience, so we certainly need to be growing revenue. And I think that all coaches and all people in fitness need to get over the fear of saying that they want to grow financially. I think a lot of coaches are afraid to say that because they don't want their clients to think that they're getting ripped off. I mean, to go back to the value point, if I help you live longer and better, imagine how much that's worth to you. It's an unlimited amount of money. And so we want to live in that type of style. And we want our coaches to be able to live that way as well. So I want to grow revenue and I want to grow it substantially. And I want to make sure that all of our key stakeholders, primarily inside of the business, have a home for a long time. So as we're growing, I want to make sure that our gyms are growing effectively. I want to make sure that our coaches who are coaching remotely grow effectively. And I want to make sure that the staff that aren't coaching clients directly have things like healthcare and 401ks and equity option plans and all that stuff, because I think that it's needed, right? Like any book you read on Silicon Valley or, financial companies or whatever, part of the reason they're so successful is that they hire really great, smart people. And I want to continue to do that here, knowing that we started from a point anything but, financed, right? Like we don't have a bunch of equity in us. we're just going out and trying to grow as effectively as possible. I want to make sure that we become a global, let's just call it a beacon for success at the coach, the client, and the owner level.
That's a great vision. That's to kind of encapsulate it that way. And when you're building that, and when you think about what that growth looks like, and certainly, being growth oriented is important for where you want to take the business. Are you thinking about, I guess the question is, what does a day in the life or a week in the life of the CEO of OPEX look like from the perspective of how are you interacting and building your team? How are you managing your responsibilities? How are you going about achieving this plan for growth?
I'm super curious on your opinion on that same question because it's such a good one. I feel like my role changes every quarter. And the reason I say that is because the way that I view my role is that I'm here to serve the business and make the business better. And so whatever the business needs, I try to be the chameleon that ensures that we are effectively either plugging holes or improving and growing really fast in the right areas. So to be honest with you, there are some times when I'm posting YouTube videos because we don't have a specific resource in play or we're trying to hire a resource to come in and do that. There are other times where I'm developing fairly sizable business partnerships with other global companies out there. I'm also an instructor, right? So I instruct our licensing program. So I teach every OPEX gym that walks through the pipeline. And I also coach every coach that comes through the pipeline, whether it be digitally or through some of our immersion courses. Probably the most important thing that I do is I work with my team every day. So, I have direct reports, but then, we've got 35, 40 people around the world that I need to make sure that we're taking care of. And that to me is what keeps me up at night. If there's anything that I don't feel like we've solved there. If a product isn't quite up to par, if a marketing funnel isn't quite up to par, I can deal with that. But I don't like when there's any type of situation that brings confusion or negative uncertainty to the business.
Absolutely. I think sorry to interrupt there, but I just we're super aligned on. I think about it oftentimes as you mentioned, being the chameleon who's, based on what's happening in the business at that moment, you kind of morph yourself into helping figure that thing out. And I think of myself that way most of the time. And oftentimes I'm intentionally setting things up for some type of, I'm intentionally running things off the rails and pushing everybody so hard in one direction with the knowledge that this thing is going to break. And when it breaks, we'll jump in and we'll fix this thing. And just about the time we fix that thing, the next thing is coming off the rails. So we run over there and fix that thing, but always with if it doesn't feel like we're moving and have the momentum and the kind of energy behind us that something's going to come off the rails, then I start to worry. Like, what are we not doing? What is not moving? What is not working? And then kind of running between groups to figure out where I can best, lend my services to them to help them fix that thing, get back on track and start moving in the right direction again.
Yeah, I think there's, we're stewards of the business, right? We need to make the business the most effective, protected, and growable asset there is. And that's certainly not all about profit. And something that my wife's uncle was the CEO of US Steel, and I often talk with him today. And one of the things that he told me is when he became the CEO of US Steel, he said, I knew that I needed to have something that we could always rally around no matter what. And so one of the biggest things that he immediately put into play was everybody goes home safely tonight. Because, you're in steel, right? There are some seriously risky situations that exist, and they had some difficult situations prior to him coming in. And so he immediately puts that into play. And that doesn't mean that he's in the plants every day making sure that people go home safely, but he's driving the ship exactly like you're talking about, Joe, to make sure that his team is ensuring that message and mission are being executed on. And I think that anybody who leads a company, I don't care if it's 2 people or 2,000 people, you need to remember that essentially what you're doing at the end of the day is you're pointing the ship and you're acting in the way that you want the ship to go. Meaning, if you're inauthentic, at some point people smell it out, right? And they're not going to follow you forever. But if you really put your time and energy and focus into building that mission, people want to follow somebody who's that excited and that focused on it. And so I think that a big part of our jobs is to get a lot better at that, you know? And so I make a ton of mistakes, but I always try and learn, particularly on the people and the languaging side, how I can fix those and what I can do to be better the next time. And there's certain situations where, I have a harder time improving than others, but generally speaking, if I can go back to those core principles, if I'm open-minded, if I work really hard, and if I'm really curious, I should be better tomorrow than I was today. And I hope to, try to instill that, as best as I can with the team, and then anybody else who's kind of a customer even of OPEX.
Definitely. It's a lot of those things, like you said, think about it the same way, and having those kind of core values and coming back to those fundamentals is certainly something that will help, you said, be a steward of the business as you drive it forward, and thinking about what that going forward looks like. And, we touched on this a little bit at the onset about the different technologies and potentially what the evolution of fitness and wellness means. A lot of the things that we're seeing now are the streaming at home, on demand, the connected fitness equipment. When you start to think about, OPEX and achieving the things that you want to achieve from a business perspective, do you look at these things as a threat? Do you look at them as an opportunity? Or is the market just so big that you're going to be able to carve out your niche, and those, the Pelotons of the world are going to do what they're going to do? How do you think about all that?
I'm a bit of a skeptical, and I don't know, I kind of go back to curious, but I think anything has potential to disrupt or help a company. So something like Peloton, right? Who do they serve? They definitely serve the higher spending customer base. That doesn't mean that they don't use that as a beachhead and have another brand or something underneath it that has a much cheaper entry point on a bike or whatever, or they could disrupt yoga in a massive way. That's a different conversation. But where I think that they will hurt OPEX is that a lot of people will start with Peloton.
Right.
However, I think a lot of people, it will help OPEX because many, many, many of our clients, whether they are coaches or for our gyms or our coaches, they're the people who are taking the next step in fitness. So if we could have 100 million more people a year start fitness, that's a beautiful thing for OPEX. And I do think that the interactive and the streaming services are going to grow like wildfire. I really do. But I also know people of all different makes and models, and there is an energy that when you're live, you cannot reproduce digitally. So while I think that there will be serious success in that field, I think that there's going to be a large chunk of people in this world who want to experience face-to-face energy. And so I think that we can really do something effectively for them in the coaching space.
Definitely. And when you just hearing you say that, I don't think I've thought about it this way before, but the number of people who are participating in exercise, as that grows, say that grows because of, there's an on-ramp for them, whatever it might be. Part of the challenge in being a coach is, frankly, coaching people who don't want to be there to begin with. So what you might end up getting out of this is more people overall, and also more people who actually want to be there to experience the thing that you're providing.
For sure. I think that is such a big point that coaches need to think about, especially if you're in something more like personal training or strength and conditioning. If we go to a very low cost boot camp, a lot of people try to start fitness there because it's lower cost. There's less barrier of entry. There's less accountability, et cetera, et cetera. So essentially what am I saying is that there's an easier way out. But a lot of people, once they start something like boot camp, if they catch momentum, Joe, you know this more than anybody, they want more. They want, specific results. They want to get a pull up. They want to do this and that, and they want to have fun doing it. There's a group of people that wants to stay in group training. There's a group of people that want to go, personalize. There's a group of people who might want to, by the way, go digital and gamification themselves, and race people online. It's like, I don't care, right? Like, I want people to do what's going to help them live longer and better. So I think, I just think that there are so many people in this world. And particularly, let's say that Amazon keeps disrupting retail and stuff. There might be some great retail facilities that some gym owners can have at a realistic price now that could help them grow a business. Look at Planet Fitness, right? Like, they're kind of taking half of a bunch of Kohl's retail outlets and they're putting Planet Fitnesses in major strip malls. That's a beautiful concept in my mind. And they're only charging $10 a month. So I think that there's a really cool dynamic that exists out there, circle of life type stuff, right? If you have a bunch of people get introduced to anything, they are going to then start breaking out into buckets of, what do I want to do next? Either nothing, the same thing I'm currently doing, or try something new. And OPEX very specifically, because of our attention to detail and professionalism, we're always going to be in the next category. It doesn't mean that some people won't start new with us, but tons of people come to us after having done something.
Definitely. When, as you start to think about, and all the things that you're talking about are all of the various opportunities that exist, the things that are coming, and whether that's in the physical space, whether that's in the gamification or digital space on demand. And I'll get you out of here on this one. And it could be kind of a loaded question, but, I often think about this, at this point with my career and with now Fit being into it, going on 3 years, then I think to myself, and this is the question for you as well, if you were to start a fitness or wellness business now, kind of seeing the trajectory that the industry is on, is there something, kind of the gears turning in your head? You're like, oh, I would do this, or this is the thing I would start, or encourage somebody else to start based on what you're seeing now?
So I think to answer this question in a way that's going to be most beneficial for people listening, I would break this into two different types of people, and then I'll make sure to answer kind of for myself. But if you are somebody who is very entrepreneurial, and by that I mean likes risk, then I think you have to go digital space. You've got to get into the digital space because the growth potential in digital is absurd. And if you can get people are teaching themselves how to code and building these businesses now, with cloud services like AWS and everything. However, if you can get some folks to help you build, and you truly have an insight in the fitness industry, there's no faster time in history to get that insight to a market, build a click funnel around it, and sell a boatload of it. And if you have a competitive advantage, you can kind of try to build a moat around that with that technology. And by the way, it's similar to Peloton, right? You can build a moat around it with media and production value. So just trying to catch Peloton is going to be harder and harder and harder, particularly after they IPO. Doesn't mean, by the way, that other companies, look at Nordic Track and all these other companies are trying to come out with the answer to it. But Peloton's got a pretty big runway that's head start right now. The flip side of it, if you are less risky, I absolutely still think that there is potential in the in-person gym business. Absolutely. And so if you fancy group training, you can open up a group gym, pay $3,000 a month in rent, and put 35 people in a room if you're going after cash, right? And you can have 300, 400, 500 people in a gym, or you can go Orange Theory style. That's getting expensive now, by the way, to open an Orange Theory. But you can do a group gym, and if you're smart and savvy on the marketing side, you can fill that damn thing because of the power of in-person networks that are catapulted by digital. So I think that there's big potential in either, and it depends on the type of person you are. If you don't like risk, I probably wouldn't tell you to do a fast growing digital business. If you want to try to become an influencer, number one, good luck. But that to me is different than a digital technology company.
Definitely.
So those are kind of two different interests. For me, don't get me wrong, I love what I'm doing right now. So let me try to dream up an answer. I think I'd have a hell of a fun time building out something digital that still allowed coaches to work more effectively with clients. And so that might look something like easing the friction of data, right? Or that could look like something on the machine learning side. I think that it's only going to get smarter, and the platforms are only going to get more connected, and the number of people that are highly, highly capable in understanding how fitness connects to tech is not a large pool of people comparatively, right? So I think that there is an opportunity for, people to go exploit that market.
I agree 100%. I think that's something that's going to be super interesting. There's kind of a saying with SaaS businesses, software as a service, that the companies over the last few years that have seen this crazy trajectory of growth have been the picks and shovels companies, the companies that have supported the growth of these bigger brands and platforms. So when you think about what is the infrastructure of a digital streaming connected fitness company, and who are the companies that are going to emerge to help the Pelotons of the world do what they do, or help, like you touched on with what are the technologies, the underlying technologies that are going to enable this next generation of remote potentially, or, online coaches to do what they do and analyze that data. There's going to be a huge opportunity there, and an entirely new category that gets created that doesn't even exist right now.
Yeah. And to go to a company that I certainly don't understand. My sister works for them, so it's a funny joke, but it's like Intel, right? Like, I don't have any concept of what Intel actually makes. They make silicon chips. Oh, cool.
Sure.
But they support everybody. So, as AWS spins up and allows people to do, frankly, whatever they want digitally, as all these fitness companies are spinning up, there's always going to be opportunity. And I'll kind of finish my thought on the piece that you hit on. If you can add value to the logistic chain, right? If I can add value to a coach and a client, I have a platform. And it doesn't take more than that, right? If I can either save consumers money, save coaches time, make consumers live longer and better, and help coaches have careers, if I can digitize that, that is a massive business.
You're spot on. I think that's the thing again, and kind of closing here, and I'll be sure to hit on it in the intro again when we do that, is if we were to do a word cloud for this conversation, the number of times that you've said value, and the value that you can provide for people, and the value for the customer, and the value for the coaches, I think the folks that you're interacting with and working with, and the kind of impact on the industry, lucky to have that kind of perspective and focus on providing value for people, because I think it's something that can get easily overlooked.
I appreciate that, man. It's fun talking to guys like you. There's so much nonsense out there, right? And it's easy to get on the negative side of the bandwagon, but I think there's also a lot of positive stuff that's going on right now, and it's fun to talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed the conversation. I appreciate you making time for us. As we get out of here, is there kind of anywhere we can direct people to get in touch with you, with OPEX, to learn more, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our main website is just opexfit.com. I always give my email out, and I always get a couple of really cool people that email me. So my email is just jim@opexfit.com. And I'm just Crowell Jim on Instagram. So happy to meet people. And LinkedIn is just my first and last name, Crowell. So hope to meet some of the folks at some point.
Awesome. I hope some folks reach out to you and build some relationships from that.
Cool. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it, man.
Likewise. Thanks, Jim.
You got it.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to today's episode. For more from Fit Insider, visit insider.fit.co and subscribe to our weekly newsletter for insights and analysis on the business of fitness and wellness. Then, go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. See you next time.